Hi, and welcome to Mark's Motivational Podcast for this Thursday. I hope it finds us well, whether you're listening in the morning, afternoon, or evening. So tonight, I'm delighted to be joined. Today, I'm delighted to be joining another guest, Derek Power, who's an author, and he's very kindly agreed to come on to the podcast. So you're very welcome along today, Derek.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Great to be here.
Yeah, great stuff. So we'll probably start off about your books. Like, what was the first book you've written? What's the book you have out at the moment again?
So the first book I wrote was it's called Filthy Henry, the Fairy Detective. So
great.
it's actually the first in a series of books that I write. So I've often loved the Celtic mythology that is in Ireland, like all the old legends and stuff like that. So what I did was I took the legends and I put a modern spin on them. And so each book kind of looks at just one legend from a modern lens. So in the first one, Filthy Henry is a half human, half fairy, and he works as a private detective.
Okay.
And he kind of exists in the world because when a crime happens in the human world that involves fairies or vice versa, they need a neutral party to kind of figure out what went wrong. But the problem is Filthy Henry is very sarcastic and nobody actually likes him, and he doesn't really like people as well. So the first book was about the leprechaun, and the king of the leprechauns has his crock of gold stolen, and Filthy Henry has to figure out where it's stolen from and all that kind of stuff. So there's 4 books in the series at the moment. There's one that deals with like the legend of Balor and Dagda. There's one that deals with Cuchulainn. There's the one I'm working on at the moment then is kind of all based around Halloween and the Halloween legends and myths and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to get that one finished in the next couple of months, and then that'd be book 5. And I kind of, they're a comedy fantasy series. But I wrote them in a way that you can kind of pick up any book. You don't need to have read the ones that came before. So if you really wanted to read the one about Cuchulainn, like for example, you can just pick that up and you're good with all the information that's in the book.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that myself as well, Derek. That sounds brilliant. Thanks for sharing that with us. And where can people buy that? I can see it's on Amazon.
Yeah, it's up on Amazon and most of the other e-readers as well. So you can get it like on Apple Books or Google Books or any of those ones. There's some stores stock it. I don't actually know which ones. They kind of order it like so the bookshop in Skerries Village, for example, stocks it where I live.
Very good, yeah.
And there's a couple of other stores, the small independent bookshops around the city, and have it in stock most times, which is good.
Yeah, so I hope it's doing really well for you. So that's great. And I can see you're making an audio book of it as well, and a podcast as well. Do you want to talk about that? Was that kind of difficult to do, Derek?
Yeah, so that's actually funny. I actually wasn't involved in the creation of that, other than I wrote the book. So a really good friend of mine, he's very big into making music and sound engineering, and he's doing a course on all that kind of stuff at the moment. And when the pandemic kicked off, he kind of was like, I need a pandemic project. And he just came up with a theme tune for Filthy Henry. And he was like, well, what do you think of this? And I was like, that's actually class. And he goes, grand. So I've recorded a couple of chapters. And I was like, you've done what? So he narrates it, he puts on the voices, he does all the editing of it. And then I literally just upload it to a podcast syndicator site, and it gets pushed out everywhere. And so he did book 1 last year, and I think he's 19 chapters of book 2 currently done. So we'll probably have that finished by the end of August. We call that season 2. And it's actually it's really good because the response that we've gotten to it's actually been very positive, and it's actually generated book sales as well, because he doesn't take liberties, but he changes some of the content from the book. So if there's certain jokes that don't work, because jokes work on paper more than in visuals and vice versa, he'll drop them, or he might change subtle kind of language. And not that the book is too sweary, but he doesn't have, because we're trying to make sure the podcast can go out to as many people as possible, and as many age brackets and stuff. So he's really good at kind of spotting all that stuff. So he makes those edits, and then we put it out together, and we just promote it as best we can.
That's great. That's a really good idea. Fair play to him. Like it's great the way things came out of the pandemic like that. For him to start something like that, that's brilliant, isn't it?
Exactly. It's like it's just this random project, and it's like it took off, and we're sitting there like I think we're on 5,000 downloads at the moment, like in a little over a year and a half. So we're very happy with how it's progressed at this
Yeah, that's brilliant, Derek. Yeah, and how did your writing begin? Your story begin with writing. Have you always dabbled in writing yourself, Derek?
Yeah, so I've often, since I was a teenager, I was kind of writing short stories and stuff like
Yeah,
that. And I really enjoyed English. I obviously, as a writer, I'm a big reader as well. Like, so I love reading
yeah,
pretty much anything.
yeah,
So it was around about 2013, 2014. I wrote the first Filthy Henry book. So kind of the
yeah.
idea for the world that he lives in kind of all came up all at the same
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I got the first one out, and I was like, well, I have another story, and it's a Filthy Henry story again. So I did it again, and then I did the
Yeah.
third one.
Mm.
So after the fourth one, though, I had an idea for a sci-fi story. So I took a break from Filthy, and I wrote the sci-fi story. That took me about 2 years to get that one done and finished.
Mm.
That was released last August,
Yeah.
again up on Amazon and in most places.
Mm.
And then I am back then into Filthy now. Filthy Henry Book 5 is the one that I'm working on at the moment. So yeah, it was like 2013. What are we now? 2021. So 8 years
Mm.
I've been kind of struggling and going along and doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And what was the name of that other book, the sci-fi one? You did send to me earlier on. Just what was that called again for people to find it?
It's called Duplex Tempest.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
So it's up on all the e-reader sites. Like, so again, you
mm.
can get it from Apple or Google
Yeah.
Books, wherever you get your ebooks from.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Eric. Yeah. So what you can do is send me on the links to it, so I can put them on the show notes as well for you. You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely, perfect.
Yeah.
Appreciate
So
it. That'd be
yeah.
great.
So people are able to find it. So that's great. No problem. And just for instance, like, can I just ask you what kind of motivates you? You know, like, to your writing, because I suppose there's always going to be tricky times where you might hit a wall, but so to speak, what kind of motivates you to keep going with your writing?
Yeah. So when I get down to the actual writing, I have most of the book plotted out in a file that I keep on the PC. So
Yeah.
when I'm writing the actual book, I don't really hit the writer's block because I'm kind of just following my rough guide.
Right. Yeah.
I read somewhere before, if you do something 10 times in a row, it can become habit forming. So every day I try and write at least 500 words. Some days it can be a bit of a struggle because you might be tired, you might be tired from the kids or from work or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you be there for like 2 hours and you're like,
Mm.
God, I'm on 499 words. I just need to get one more word. And then some days you'll just get up and the coffee hits your brain and suddenly you've got 2,000 words written before you even know it.
Yeah.
But the main goal is I try and get 500 words at least every day. And then when I'm into the editing phases of the books, I try and edit at least 2 pages a night.
Yeah.
And then it's just chipping away. A lot of people seem to kind of like, they'd be thinking, I'm going to write a book and a book has to be 80,000 words or 90,000 words. And it seems like a huge mountain. And it is, like, it's a body of work.
Yeah.
But if you just chip away at small bits, you get it done, kind of thing. And then the main reason I keep doing it, like, as a hobby, it kind of keeps me away from other boring things. Like, I'm a slight workaholic, so I'd be still working if I was not doing something else. Like, so, and then you kind of get the scratch in the back of your head, like, you have a story in the back of your head, and like it wants to get out, and if you don't write it, you just keep on having these mad thoughts about it, and eventually, like, it's like, I'll just write it and I'll get it out onto the page, and then I'm done. And then, like I said, like, promoting it is the hard part. That's the part I'm bad at. And I need to kind of focus on that a little bit.
Yeah, but no, that's really good. Like, for anybody that's listening, like, to have a structure like that of having like a certain amount of words to do every day. So that's great. Thanks a lot for sharing that. Like, that can really help anybody like that writes, like myself even. So yeah, that's great. So like, you were saying about like writing a certain amount of words every day. Would you have a kind of a structure where you set, I'm going to write at this time of the day or anything like that, or where do you really get your inspiration from, Derek?
Yeah, so for when I write, like, so usually I finish work about 5-6 o'clock, and then we have family time from then until when the kids go to bed, which is usually about 8 or half 8. And then my wife is super supportive. She always is trying to push me to do more writing, to do more promotion in my writing and stuff like that. Anytime she sees anything on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, she'll tag me in it and be like, you need to be writing here or promoting here, kind of thing. And so once the kids are in bed, I'll sit down and I'll try and get about half an hour, 40 minutes on the keyboard, and it's just pure writing. And sometimes I might pop the headphones on just to kind of drown out any background noise. But it's generally in the night times. At the weekends, I might do it in the afternoon because I don't have the whole work day consuming, a large chunk of your valuable writing time. And then, like I said, like I have everything plotted out, and someone gave me the best bit of advice when I was in school. It was actually my English teacher. He said, you don't have to get a word perfect first go. That's what editing's for. So, I write out the 500 words or whatever, the 1,000 words that I get out. And I know myself, I might be chopping them when I come back to draft 2 or draft 3, or I might be padding it out a little bit. It's just important to get it out first.
Yeah.
Because if I sat there all day trying to get that perfect sentence, I'd never get anything done. So it's just a kind of, that's the process that I would use.
Yeah, very good, very good. And you obviously self-published a lot of your stuff. Is that right, Derek?
Yeah. So initially, I tried to go down the traditional publishing route with Filthy Henry when I finished writing it. So I went looking for agents, and I didn't really get any bites. And then there was a couple of publishing houses that would have been open to unrepresented manuscripts, sent them in. And I can't remember who it was, but one publisher actually got back to me, and they had said, look, it's very hard for new people to get into the industry at the moment, because the Kindle had just kind of really took off around about 2013. And they basically were, it was like the iPod of the publishing world. They were like, people were able to just bang out these things for 99 cents all on their own, and the publishing, they weren't taking a punt. So they actually said, why don't you try it on the Kindle? So I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. And the first one's done well enough that I was like, okay, grand, this actually seems fairly simple. So like I did the covers myself, and then I hired an editor for it, and put it all together then, and off she went. And that's the same then for the last, or the other 5 books then that I've published as well. So with Duplex Tempest, because it wasn't the Filthy Henry book, I tried going back the traditional road. Because I figured, it was a departure from Filthy Henry is now a series, so chances of someone picking up a Filthy Henry book for me in the traditional sense isn't going to happen. So Duplex Tempest, I actually got a couple of agents that were talking to me, but they eventually kind of came to the conclusion that the story wasn't strong enough for them to take the punt. So I was like, you know what, I've been shopping it around for 6 or 7 months now. At this stage, I'll self-publish this one as well. So the cover of it is actually, I got a guy off Fiverr, and that website that you can go like freelancers and stuff. So I just went to him and I kind of said, like, look, I like some of your work. I have an idea for a cover if you can do it. He was like, yeah, happy to do that. So, negotiated a price, got a fantastic looking cover. I love the cover, and it was exactly what I had described to him. So it's it was a good experience using that. I'd definitely be doing something like that again, I think, in the future.
Yeah, that's great, because I agree with you 100%, because I've written my first book as well. So I think self-publishing is a good way forward, isn't it, really, for people, especially that are starting out? Would you agree with me there?
Yeah, well, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's in the movie industry in LA, and he was saying what's happening now is, if you want to try and get the bigger people to notice you, like the big traditional publishers, and you almost have to start building your brand yourself. And I remember as well, when I was starting out with the self-publishing, I was reading about this author. I'm going to butcher her name now. I think it was Emily Hocking was her name, and she had written a trilogy of dark fantasy books. And when she shopped them around, nobody was interested. And she was like, okay, I'm going to put them up on Amazon. And she'd done a thing where the first book was 99 cents, and then the next one was 6, and the one after that was 6 as well. And what ended up happening was, just through her own promotion and the quality of her work and word of mouth and whatever, she made like $1 million, I think, from book sales. And then the publishing crowd came back, and she was like, well, I don't need you now. It's just funny. So, but my friend was saying, like, definitely with the self-publishing, it's you're building your brand, you're getting your going. And then at the end of the day, then it's a luck game, right? You get that one book, like The Martian, that was self-published, and there's a Matt Damon movie about it.
Exactly. So hopefully we'll be seeing a movie from you soon, from your book.
I would love a Filthy Henry movie. I think it'd be amazing.
Great, because I love the idea. It's absolutely brilliant there, brilliant. And you might as well share, like, your friend that's done the podcast and the audio book. Like, you might maybe share his links if he wants. He can do that as well for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I have said it to him before about maybe doing other books for other people.
yeah,
He said, no, I'm just happy doing Filthy Henry. And I was like, yeah,
good
come
stuff.
on, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
quality of like you could easily
yeah,
knock these out as well. But I
yeah.
definitely will. If he has any, if he has a portfolio that he's put together, I'll definitely send you on the links so you can
Yeah, that's
include.
brilliant. Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate you coming on tonight, Derek. It's great. Yeah, thanks very much, and I wish you the best of luck with your books. And I'll probably just ask a few of your favorites now, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why?
So well, what's your favorite book yourself, or favorite author? Do you have like that's inspired you really?
Yeah, so it's actually it's a combination. So my favorite book of all time would be Philip K. Dick's "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep." I absolutely love it. In
Brilliant.
fact, I've read it so many times that when I got it on my Kindle, kind of just to have on my Kindle, I was
Yeah.
like, I haven't read it in a year, so I'll read it now. And I spotted that the dates have all been changed because what I loved about Philip K. Dick's books where his future was like the 90s.
Hmm.
So it was like Blade Runner was based in 1992. And then I was
Yeah.
reading the book and I was like, whoa, what's this 2592? That's not right. Someone's changed Philip K. Dick.
Yeah.
How dare
Yeah. Yeah.
they? So Duplex Tempest was kind of like my, my fan love letter to that book. Like it was
Yeah.
all Duplex is about a sci-fi noir story. It would a detective Do Androids Dream is about a detective and a crime and all that kind of stuff. And then in terms of favorite author, I probably would have to go with Terry Pratchett. I
Mm.
absolutely loved the Discworld series that he
Okay.
wrote. And then he has a couple of other ones. He wrote one called The Long Earth, which was about a parallel planets and you travel to it using a potato powered device.
Okay.
And then he wrote one with Neil Gaiman called Good Omens, which was like a comedic version of The Omen.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
actually one of my most prized possessions because I met Terry Pratchett in
All right.
Easton's
Yeah.
and he signed it for me. So like I have it somewhere in the house, like in a fireproof box.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
case of emergency, grab kids, grab dog, grab book, check if wife is following out the door.
Brilliant. Great. Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like a great book. Actually, like that's what I love about doing these podcasts. You get some good recommends.
If you've never read Discworld, absolutely start reading Discworld.
Yeah.
He done this thing where even though like it's a complete series
Mm.
and there's like I think there was like 42 books when he died,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
wrote kind of similar characters in
Mm.
certain groups. So my
Yeah.
brother, for example, hates like 90% of the Discworld books, but he reads all the ones that have the guards in them because he
Okay.
loves those characters. Like so, there's something for
Yeah.
everybody in the Discworld series.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Thanks for that recommend. That's great. And do you like any non-fiction books yourself, Derek? Do you read any of that kind of stuff?
And just stuff for work, which is going to be very boring.
Yeah, you
So
don't
like I'm
want
reading one at the moment,
to.
about project management and flow. Like so nobody's
Okay.
going to want to hear about
I
that.
know that's cool. That's cool. And moving on to music, do you have what are your favorite bands or musicians yourself?
Oh, my music tastes are kind of eclectic and all over the place. I'm a big lover of AC/DC.
Oh yeah,
Just I'd always have them playing. In fact, I think I've probably burnt my phone to death playing Back in Black.
me too.
So
Yeah,
all the times.
yeah,
When I'm writing, actually, I find I need to listen to music that doesn't have words in it because I
mm,
have a nasty habit of the lyrics getting transposed into what I'm writing. So,
yeah,
movie soundtracks are a big thing that I'd listen to in the background, when I'm doing any writing. I just need to kind of just drown out the world a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of the music taste at the moment.
Mm. Getting back to the book, Philip K. Dick, he's a great writer, like absolutely great. Like yeah,
Fantastic
yeah,
stuff.
brilliant. I really enjoyed Blade Runner reading that, and Minority Report as well was great.
Yeah, and Total Recall is his as well.
Yeah, oh, class stuff.
And
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was one actually years ago. I can't remember the name of the actual story. It was a short story, but there was a movie called The Adjustment Bureau.
Okay.
It's got Matt Damon in it, and there's this like celestial power that's trying to guide his life because he's meant to become the president, and he keeps on bumping into Emily Blunt, and they keep falling in love, and they keep on trying to break them apart, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
when myself and my wife were watching it, I was like, Jesus, this is like a Philip K. Dick story the way it's going on. And then we were watching the credits, and I was like, it's based off a Philip K. Dick story. You can tell,
Yeah.
you can just tell by watching
You
it. Like,
can, yeah.
that's a Philip K. Dick story. That's one of those crazy ones that he's had.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So moving nicely on to the movies then. What do you have any favorite movies yourself?
Well, because of the book, Blade Runner is obviously one of my favorite
Yeah,
movies.
of course. Yeah, it's great.
And
Yeah.
it has to be the director's cut for me. I know some people would argue the final cut's the one that you should watch, but if I'm going to pick another one, then The Usual Suspects. I absolutely love The Usual Suspects.
Great film. Great movie.
I keep telling people it's one of those movies you have to watch twice, because you watch it the first time, and then when you watch it the second time, you see so much different stuff because you know the story.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those ones
brilliant.
that I've watched like a half dozen times. The only killer is Kevin Spacey with his whole situation that's going on there. You're kind of like, I can still like the movie though, right? It doesn't make me a bad guy.
No, it is a great movie, great film. Yeah, great film.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, and do you watch any series on Netflix? Any favorite series on Netflix yourself?
So I'm currently going through Snowpiercer, the Netflix series. So it's slightly different to the movie. The basic premise is the same. The world's frozen over and there's a train going around. But the TV show then diverges a little bit with its storylines. And then the one that myself and my wife are watching together, but the gaps between the seasons it's the killer part of it, is Westworld.
Okay.
Loved the whole, again, it's sci-fi, it's androids, it's that whole aspect to it.
Great.
But I think there's like 2 or 3 years between seasons. And then you get 6 episodes, so it's like, oh, come on, give me more. Well, they're the kind of current ones on the watch list at the moment.
Yeah, sound good. Takeaways there, all right. And when you can travel again, where do you like to travel? Like yourself and your wife, where do you like to go on holidays? What's your favorite place to go?
So before we had kids, Italy was our big favorite place to go. So we've been a couple of times. Venice in particular, we're big fans of Venice. If you ever get a chance to go, we've gone twice now. We're lucky to be able to do that. And we went once on our own, and then when we had Olivia, our eldest, I think she was about 1, we were able to go on a family holiday, and we brought her to Venice on a day trip. And she's obviously totally oblivious to the whole fact that she was in this lovely architectural place with all this art and stuff going around. And then last year we done last year, the time has no meaning because of the pandemic.
I know. True,
the last summer we were able to do anything. We took the kids camping in France, to one of those Euro camps.
Brilliant,
and it was brilliant. It was just kind of like, nature and a lovely little cabin. All the amenities right within walking distance. The kids just enjoying themselves, running around the place.
Sounds great.
My wife sitting there reading books. So they're kind of the places that we usually go to.
Lovely.
We used to do a lot of camping when we were free and single from kids, but parenting changes you to a little
big time. You're at Disney now, and salute for me. yeah. Well, no, that's great. Thanks a million for coming on. It's brilliant. And maybe one last thing, if it's okay, because it's a motivational podcast. If you could kind of give anybody advice in writing, like to motivate them, like what kind of advice would you give them, Derek?
So I suppose I'd say, like I said earlier, it's a huge number of words you think you have to write, but if you just chip away at it, 500 a day, bam, 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 you'll get there in the end. And then you just have to be like, I think all writers, we're our own worst critics, really, at the end of the day. And we were convinced everything that we produce is rubbish and no one's going to care about it. So you just have to ignore your inner critic. Write the story that you want to write, that you'd be interested in reading, and then get a couple of beta readers. I'm actually quite fortunate. I'm involved in a small indie publishing house. So we're called Breaking Rules Publishing Europe. And it's myself and 3 other people. And I'm kind of learning all the tricks of the trade from them. But advanced reader groups are a big thing. You can get people to give you genuine feedback, and they don't care about your feelings because they don't know you. You sign up to a service and it's just like, look, I've got a book, this is the theme, this is the plot, this is the character, anyone want to read it from me. You get a load of people will sign up and go, absolutely, I'll read that for you, and then they'll come back with notes, and you can make your changes then because they don't care about hurting your feelings, and so you get some really good feedback from that type of stuff. So they're kind of the big bits. The word count, just do it, set yourself a manageable target each day, just make sure you hit that. At least you'll hit it some days, no problem, and you'll go over. Some days you won't and you'll struggle, but you'll just hit it. And then the advanced reader group stuff, big help. because you get that external review of your work.
That's brilliant, Derek. That's really good for everybody that's listening. That's really helpful. Thanks a million. I might even look into that myself. That's brilliant. So listen, thanks a million again, Derek, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Great chat.
Really brilliant. So that was Derek Power, everybody. So you check this out. This will be going live next Thursday. So be also on YouTube to check it out. So listen, thanks again, Derek, and all the best in your future endeavors as well.
Cheers, brilliant. Talk to you again.
Okay, thanks for tuning in. Take care. Thank you.